Welcome to this explainer. We're distilling the absolute best research and economic insights to decode the global money game. I mean, think about this for just a second. We spend our entire lives working for money, stressing over it, literally trading our finite time on Earth just to get a little bit more of it, right? Yet the vast majority of us were never actually taught how the machinery of money works. We're basically dropped into this highly complex, highly competitive global game with zero instructions, and we're just expected to figure it out. Well, today, we are changing that. We're going to break down 10 fundamental financial concepts without any of that dry, confusing textbook jargon, so you can truly understand the board you're playing on. So here's our roadmap for today. We're organizing these 10 core rules into 4 logical levels. First up, the foundations of money. Then, engines of the economy. Third, invisible economic forces. And finally, your winning financial strategy. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the foundations of money. So I want you to consider what's actually sitting in your wallet right now. Like, what is money, really? If we look back in history, humans used physical items with perceived worth. Things like gold, silver, or even seashells. Those objects had weight. They had a physical presence that made people feel secure. But today, the money we carry is completely different. We've transitioned almost entirely to paper and, well, digital numbers just flashing on a screen. And that brings us to fiat currency, which is honestly kind of the ultimate magic trick of our modern economy. The paper in your wallet has absolutely zero intrinsic value. It's not backed by some hidden vault of gold somewhere. It only has value because of a massive shared social contract. We all collectively agree it's worth something simply because the government guarantees it. The moment that collective trust vanishes, our currency becomes nothing more than beautifully printed paper. Trust, not gold, is the actual foundation of your money. It's the shared belief system that keeps the entire global economy spinning. Now, this brilliantly illustrates our next concept, taxes. Think about it like this. If you don't like a streaming service, say Netflix, you just hit the cancel button, right? But you cannot cancel your society subscription. Taxes are exactly that. They're a mandatory subscription fee to live in a civilized society. Your local, state, and federal governments take a progressive slice of your earnings, meaning the more you make, the larger the percentage you pay. This is the unyielding price of admission to fund civilization. It pays for our roads, military defense, public schools, emergency services, the whole shebang. It's basically the cost of maintaining the infrastructure that allows the rest of the game to be played. Moving right along to Section 2, Engines of the Economy. This dynamic exposes the true nature of banks. Now, most of us grew up assuming a bank is just a high-security vault that safely stores your hard-earned cash. But actually, they aren't storage units at all. They are highly efficient credit engines. Here's how it works. They take the money you deposit as a saver and pay you a tiny fraction of a percent. Then they immediately turn around and lend that exact same money to borrowers, whether that's to buy a house or start a business, at a much higher rate, like 7%. Banks profit purely by keeping the difference. So the entire banking engine is fueled entirely by your deposits, transforming your static savings into active economic momentum. Which leads us perfectly into the concept of interest. Put simply, interest is the price of renting money. It's literally the cost of time when it comes to capital. So the absolutely crucial point here is that interest goes both ways. When you're the one borrowing money, interest is a premium you pay for the ultimate privilege of getting that money right now instead of waiting. But when you save or invest, interest completely flips. It becomes a reward you earn for letting someone else use your capital. Depending on which side of the equation you stand on, interest can either be this heavy anchor dragging your finances down to the bottom or a powerful wind at your back pushing you forward toward financial independence. Okay, let's dive into Section 3, Invisible Economic Forces. Meet the invisible thief, inflation. We all know prices go up, but think of it this way. If you hide $1,000 under your mattress for 30 years, it essentially melts like an ice cube left out on a warm table. When you finally take it out, sure, the bills will still say $1,000, but that same stack of cash might only buy you $100 worth of groceries compared to 3 decades ago. It's not that goods are suddenly harder to make, it's that your currency is bleeding purchasing power every single day. Inflation acts as a stealth tax on your savings, silently eroding your wealth if you just leave it sitting still. And just as money loses value, the economy itself goes through unavoidable cycles. No economy grows forever without taking a break. Every few years, we experience a recession. It helps to think of the economy exactly like a giant pair of lungs. After a long, sustained period of inhaling and growing, it eventually has to exhale. During a recession, business activity declines, consumers spend less, and unemployment rises. Now, it is undeniably painful for those caught in the downturn, but it's a natural and actually entirely necessary reset for the broader business cycle. It clears out all those bad, over-leveraged investments and completely resets the stage for future sustainable growth.
All right, bringing it all together in Section 4, your winning financial strategy.
Winning this game starts with your reputation, encapsulated in a number up to 850. This is your credit score. See, when you want to buy a house, a bank won't just look you in the eye and take your word that you'll pay them back. They look at this 3-digit number, which is essentially your adult financial report card. It tells lenders exactly how responsible you've been with debt over your entire lifetime. The gap between a score of 300 and an 850 isn't just a number. It dictates your entire leverage in the system. It's literally the difference between being rewarded with cheap capital to build wealth or being punished with massive fees and total rejections. To truly build wealth, you also have to understand subjective value. A plain white t-shirt might cost $5, right? But stamp a high-end designer logo on it, and suddenly it's $300? No way, right? But how do we determine what something is actually worth? Well, value isn't about how many hours you worked on something or how hard it was to make. Value is determined purely by what someone else is willing to pay for it. It is entirely subjective. It's like offering a glass of water to someone in a lush forest where water is everywhere versus offering that exact same glass in a scorching desert where it suddenly becomes priceless. If you create something perceived as rare or solve a pressing problem, the market heavily rewards you. So knowing all of this, knowing that inflation is constantly melting your money and that standard savings accounts pay you practically nothing, how do you actually fight back? How do you protect and grow your wealth in a system that honestly seems designed to chip away at it? You invest. Investing is simply the act of buying assets like stocks, real estate, or ownership in businesses that have the potential to grow in value over time. Think of it as planting a seed in really rich soil. Instead of you doing all the heavy lifting and continuously trading your precious time for a paycheck, investing is about forcing your money to work for you. It's about deploying your capital so it goes out into the world and generates income while you sleep, freeing you from that endless cycle of trading hours for dollars. And that brings us to our final and arguably most critical rule of the entire financial system. Winning isn't about being a math genius, having some massive trust fund, or even starting out with a huge salary. It's about time. Time is the ultimate equalizer in finance, and it is undeniably your most valuable asset. Nowhere is time more powerful than in the mechanics of compound interest. It creates a literal snowball effect. You invest a small amount early on, and those earnings begin to generate their own earnings. It compounds. Over decades, this effect picks up mass and speed, turning incredibly modest, consistent savings into an unstoppable avalanche of wealth. You absolutely don't need to be a Wall Street expert to win this game. You really just need to start early, stay consistent, and let time do the heavy lifting for you. The global financial system can absolutely feel like an overwhelming maze when you're first dropped into it. We've all been there. But once you can visualize these core concepts, the walls really start to make sense. You understand the foundations, the engines, the hidden forces, and the strategies for exponential growth. So the question I want to leave you with today is this. Armed with this knowledge, are you going to remain a passive player in someone else's game? Or will you start making strategic moves to take total control of your economic future? The next move is yours.